still think we're going to have a sizable correction in the market before we have a pickup. I was going to ask you before I read the notes that you gave our producers whether you thought that already happened.
Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I thought I'd share this quick clip with you guys regards to Tom Lee and it's his predictions on the possible 10-15% correction in the market. Now, for me as a margin investor, you guys, I take this as a great opportunity, especially for those investors that know how to use margin and use it at a conservative rate. If you know how to use margin at a very conservative rate, I think you will prevail in any market. It does not matter. I think you can possibly prevail in the .com market, but let's not go too far, okay? I just want you guys to see that when we do have these downward markets, I think that gives us margin investors an opportunity to build on our ownership and assets, okay? A lot of people get wary of the price action, especially in the downfall, and they start to make emotional reactions. Our emotional reaction is going to stem from discipline, stability, and sound investments when it comes to building on ownership, okay? Aside from that, take a quick look at this video from Tom Lee, all right? Tom Lee.
Still think we're going to have a sizable correction in the market before we have a pickup. I was going to ask you before I read the notes that you gave our producers whether you thought that already happened.
Yeah.
And in fact, you don't think it happened already.
No, I don't. I think we've had a rolling bear market in a lot of groups, Mag 7 and software, crypto, and now the AI stocks. But we haven't had a broad de-risking. I think that is later this year. And it probably is around this inflation derangement syndrome that is the market is very concerned about, whether the Fed should be hiking in September. I think there's a real battle up until September. But our take, of course, is that inflation is much weaker. I think that there won't be a hike in September.
Well, I mean, if the market comes around to that view, then why would you have a 10% pullback? You think the market's just going to get so crazy with itself that it's going to convince itself that there's a hike coming in September? Even, by the way, amid reports in some publications that Chair Warsh is ready to do that if he has to, if inflation remains hot into that meeting.
Yeah, I think it's still hotly debated because there are economists who want the Fed to hike just to reestablish credibility with financial markets. We know the media and investors are impatient with inflation because it's at 2.6. They want it down to 2. But at the end of the day, if underlying inflation is much weaker, which is our take, then I think it's a mistake for the Fed to hike. But this is not a consensus view. I think it's still a battleground.
How about that nuance of Tom's outlook? The fact that, everything's great.
Okay, you guys. So my reaction to the video is, we are going to be looking forward to the federal chairman and with regards to how the interest rates will affect the market. That's always going to be some sort of price reaction when it comes to our forecast and what, the CPI inflation data is going to be and what, the federal chairman are going to set interest rates at, because it plays somewhat of a huge general effect on the economy at the end of the day, right? So I would say for the basic investor, someone who just dollar cost average, this may more likely just be noise for you. But for those margin investors, this is something you may want to pay attention to, okay? Because again, although we are leveraged investors, we do not want to be over leveraged, okay? I think honestly, for any investor, I think it's always sound for us to take our time and, educate ourselves on how the inflation metric works with regards to how it affects us in the economy. At some point, don't put too much energy into it, okay? But also think this is why it's good whether you guys like to listen to Tom Lee or not. He is a very strong predictor when it comes to the market. And when he speaks, everyone normally listens, okay? So this is great. To me, I think this is great sound advice. Not advice. Let me take that back. This is not advice, okay? And Tom Lee is not giving advice. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This is my disclaimer, okay, you guys? Please take note of that. So with that being said, you guys, again, we are here to build on our ownership. If the market takes a downfall, guess what? We are in a better opportunity to expose ourselves to a downward market using conservative measures, conservative leverage, so that we can increase our chances of having a better upside appreciation and having a better return on our investments when we decide to use leverage going into the market, okay? And then when we pay it down, roughly whether it be 90, 98%, we don't have to pay down our margin debt down to zero. You know, as long as we have a safe exposure, we can pay down to roughly 98% solidification within our assets and then recycle our debt, go back into debt. Okay. So if you guys found any value in this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.